Aristides, the first Kentucky Derby winner, way back in 1875, and 143 years later, the Derby and the Oaks are still going strong. From the Aristides Lounge, it's time for the Kentucky Oaks post position draw show. The connections are slowly gathering into the room. 14 three-year-old fillies. Their names will be drawn, as will their post positions, right here from the Aristides Lounge. And really looking forward to seeing exactly what's going to happen with the draw, because tactically it is very, very important. Joe Christofak, the Churchill Downs racing analyst, joined by Gary Young from TwinSpires.com, an analyst and also a clocker. And Gary, 14 fillies in the Kentucky Oaks this year, the Longines Kentucky Oaks. 2 of them are headliners, one from the East Coast, one from the West Coast, Monomoy Girl and Midnight Bisou.
Classic East versus West showdown with Monomoy Girl and Midnight Bisou. Monomoy Girl is more or less a front runner, Midnight Bisou more or less a closer, but they both have won with other running styles also. Yeah,
lots of class, graded stakes victories, and Rhea, the horse coming in from overseas for Bob Baffert, who's won the Kentucky Oaks 3 times, including last year with Abel Tasman. To find out how the draw works, we're going to send it over to the third member of our team from TwinSpires.com, Ed DeRosa. Ed?
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, this is what's called a double blind draw. So we don't know the order in which the horses are going to be drawn. Certainly don't know their post positions yet. We'll pick a name, match it to a number. That'll be the post position. We're going to do the first 7, take a little break, do the next 7. When all's said and done, we'll have 14 fillies ready for the Kentucky Oaks.
All right, thanks, Ed. And speaking of those 14 fillies, it's a point system. You have to earn your way into this race, Gary. There's 20 horses for the Kentucky Derby, 14 for the Oaks. Let's take a look at the list of horses headlined by Midnight Bisou and Monomoy Girl. They earn the most points, and they are the 2 top-rated fillies in this race. But looking at this list of horses, 14 of them, Gary, who strikes your fancy besides the 2 obvious ones?
Coach Rocks won the prep at Gulfstream in the Devona Dale despite getting in a lot of trouble. She got stopped pretty good at the 3/8 pole, still won. And Raya has, he touched on her earlier, she's coming from Dubai. She's worked for Baffert with Abel Tasman, last year's Kentucky Oaks winner, since she got to the country, and she's held her own with her. Wonder Gadot with John Velasquez also worked good at Churchill the other morning. Those would be the 3 price chances if you're trying to beat the 2 favorites, in my mind.
We talked about Monomoy Girl. She's won 5 of 6 lifetime starts. The only blemish on her record was here at Churchill Downs and Stakes Company, but she still ran her eyeballs out, and she's really advanced nicely as a 3-year-old. We want to take a look at the Rachel Alexandra Stakes because she overcame some adversity in this race, Gary.
Yes,
she is a front runner, but she broke poorly in the Rachel Alexandra and was still able to overcome it, which is a very, very good sign moving forward. Monomoy Girl has shown some versatility, the ability to overcome adversity, but speed is her natural weapon.
It is. I mean, she didn't break this day. A lot of times horses from the outside post, they don't break well when there's nothing outside of them. She didn't break well, didn't bother her. She still got there. I mean, you can see her making a run on the outside now. Looks very good. Very good.
Yeah,
she didn't really...
She settled nicely, too. She didn't run off with Florent, who was very patient after the poor break, and, she still finished with authority here.
She did. And in the Ashland, she really didn't break on the money that day, but she went up there. She veered out a little bit there. You can see that. But she's a very professional filly. Wonder Gadot running 3rd in that race. You can see her coming to the wire, but Monomoy Girl probably will be a slight favorite. Very nice filly.
And there you see her entering the winner's circle at the fairgrounds. Classy Act was 2nd in that race. Wonder Gadot was 3rd. And standing by with Ed DeRosa is the trainer of Monomoy Girl and Sassy Sienna, Brad Cox. Ed?
Thanks, Joe. Brad, we know you'll want them 1-2 in some fashion under the wire. Have you thought about where you want to see them in the starting gate here after the post position draw?
It'd be nice to see somewhere in the middle, some speed to the inside where we can set off a couple horses, a couple fillies. I'd like to see them 1, 2, 3. Kelly Schumer's going to get in, so we'll see. But somewhere in there.
Yeah, Kelly's Humor on the AE list. You mentioned to me while we were watching the Rachel Alexandra, you want something between the Ashland and the Rachel Alexandra. She doesn't necessarily need to be on the lead. There is some pace in here. Any specific instructions to Florent?
No, he knows her very well. He'll, just depends on how she gets away. He'll know where to place her, and, he's a good judge of speed. So we'll see how we draw here and go from there.
Probably same goes for Gary on Sassy Sienna, I reckon.
Yeah, she's a little quicker way, and maybe she'll be looking to get a similar trip, and then obviously Kelly Schumer kind of, just break and settle and toward the back of the pack and come with one run.
Sounds good. Well, Brad, really appreciate it. Best of luck here at the draw and, of course, in the race itself.
Thank you very much.
Joe?
All right, Brad Cox has never started a horse in the Kentucky Oaks or the Kentucky Derby, but he's got the favorite of Monomoy Girl and Sassy Sienna, a live shot as well. We saw her break poorly in the Rachel Alexandra, Monomoy Girl did, but she broke well in the Ashland, and Florent Drew wasn't messing around in this race, Keeneland, Gary.
No, he had the rail, and that kind of meant that he had to force his hand a little bit. He didn't want to take a chance on getting boxed in. He put her on the engine, and at no time did it look like she was a loser in this race.
You're going to see Eskimo Kisses closing strongly for second here, and Patrona Margarita finishes well back in third, but there was no doubt who the best horse in this race was.
No, Eskimo Kisses was strong clear on the rest of the field, but she wasn't making no impression on Monomoy Girl's lead. She ran well, but she wasn't catching her at all at the wire that day.
Speaking of being the best on the West Coast, we alluded to this earlier, Midnight Bisou. She's got a different running style than Monomoy Girl. It's going to be interesting to see tactically with Amy's challenge out. A little bit of the steam is now out of the Oaks, so it'll be interesting to see just how fast they go up front. Midnight Bisou, though, can be a little bit more tactical. She wins the Santa Anita Oaks from far, far off the pace with an explosive turn of foot, though.
This was an amazing race. I mean, she was running against a bunch of fillies. There she is back there with the red silks about in sixth. And, I mean, she's seemingly passing a horse with every stride. Some of these fillies in this race probably were distance challenged and stuff like that. But, I mean, right now, there's no doubt who's going to win this race. And she just blows past these fillies. At times in the past, she has laid close to the pace. She won a 7/8 stake at Santa Anita where she was only a length off of a 22 4/4. But she looked really comfortable running like this that day. Kind of looks like Midnight Lou coming through the stretch a little bit there. I'm sure Mike's going to be monitoring what goes on in this race, seeing that she has won up close in the past, and very talented filly, and my man Mike Smith, he definitely knows what to do in these big money races.
Yeah, he's won the race a couple of different times, including last year. Also won it with Princess Silmar. So Mike Smith, big money Mike, and we call him that for a reason. The Fairgrounds Oaks. Now, Gary, you can breed a horse and race. You can buy a horse at a sale. You can claim a horse. But very rarely do you claim a horse and a couple of months later run in a Grade 1, let alone the Kentucky Oaks. That's the story behind Chocolate Martini. Let's take a look back at the Fairgrounds Oaks. It was an exciting finish and a trio of horses who are running back in the Kentucky Oaks.
It is. I mean, all three of these fillies wound up making it to the dance. She's on the outside there in the orange, about fifth. Sometimes you claim a horse at the right time and they just get good. That's about all you can say. Wonder Godot's inside of her. The leader's getting tired and drifting. Chocolate Martini gets up outside of her, and right about here, it's going to be tough. I mean, it's going to be tough to see her lose. Wonder Godot trying down inside, but for for a cheap claim, that was just an unbelievable rush for those people, I'm sure.
Yeah, Tom Amos, the trainer, also has a horse in the Kentucky Derby, and Lone Sailor, one of 5 trainers this year to have a horse in both the Oaks and the Derby. Another one of those is Dale Romans. We're going to talk about his coach Rox in just a moment. But first, you look at Chocolate Martini, she's kind of a grinder. You look at Midnight Bisou, she's got an explosive turn of foot. You look at Monomoy Girl, who has speed, but she also has another gear. Going 1 1/8 miles, what's the best combination of talents for a racehorse, pace-wise and talent-wise and tactically, to get the job done? I mean, obviously talent is the most important factor.
Well, if you're a deep closer like Chocolate Martini, you're kind of dependent on how fast they go up front. It does look like there's going to be an honest pace in this race. Going a mile and an eighth, you'd want probably a horse like both Monomoy Girl and Midnight Bijou are horses that are capable of laying close if the pace is moderate. And thus far, when you see these fillies come to the wire and their preps for the races, they're not shortening stride. And it looks like even though they're running a mile and an eighth this time, that it looks like the distance won't be a problem for them.
Now, we mentioned trainers that have horses in both the Oaks and the Derby, 5 of them. One of them is Dale Romans, who has 2 horses in the Kentucky Derby, and I think a major player in the Kentucky Oaks. It took this horse a long time to break her maiden, but Gary, sometimes it takes horses a little bit of time to figure things out. The race she ran at Gulfstream last time was impressive for many different reasons, Coach Rocks.
You know, it was. I mean, some of these horses are quicker studies than others. Others take 4 or 5 races. There she is back there about in 6th. Right before we picked these up, she had a horse that was tiring right in her face, and she got stopped a little bit, and she still picked herself up and went around. It's basically a 2-horse race from here. She gets drifted out a little bit by the horse in front of her, and she's a little late changing her leads here, but once she does, right there, it's pretty apparent that she's going to get the job done. And you know, she comes to the wire in full stride. If you're looking to beat the favorites, that was a pretty impressive performance.
Yeah, she's definitely progressive. She's moving forward. We don't know if she's hit her ceiling just yet. If she takes another step forward, she could maybe give the favorites a run for their money. When you look at the betting in this race, who do you think is going to be the favorite? Who's going to be the betting favorite between Midnight Bijou and Monomoy Girl? And what kind of prices are we looking at? Are we looking at 2 9-5 shots and the third choice 5, 6, 7-1? Is that how you see it?
I think that would be a pretty good guess. I think both of them will be 5-2 or less. Maybe Monomoy Girl a slight favorite over Midnight Bijou. But I think they're both 5-2 or less, and I think whoever is third choice, whether it's the Martini or whoever it is, I think they're 6-1 at best, right. maybe even more. I mean, if you beat the 2 favorites, you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
You know, from a gambling standpoint, if you beat the 2 favorites, you get paid in this race.
Yeah, I think Rhea will get bet a little bit. Coach Rocks will get bet a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and then potentially My Miss Lily, who we haven't talked about yet, coming in from New York. And let's take a look at her. I mean, she's kind of a grinder. She won the Gazelle. She's by Tappet. She's one of the least experienced horses in the field. How does that grinding style transition to a mile and an eighth on this kind of racetrack against this kind of field? Mark Hennig says she probably wants to go further.
You know, grinders are pretty much the belief on those are the further they go, the better their chances are, because they just grind it out instead of having the explosive turn of foot. This horse, you know, right here, they're going to line up 3 across the track, and it looks like she's a winner from here. She didn't draw off and win super impressively, but she did get the job done. Horses by Tappet, who is the leading sire in the country, they have one of their good things about them is they get better with experience, and the older they get, the more they get.
There you see My Miss Lily getting the job done there, and you know, she's going to grind it out. She's going to run her race. A lot of these fillies are going to run the race. It's just a matter of how the race sets up and what happens at the start. And a lot of what happens at the start is often determined by the post position draw. So it's going to be a very interesting proceeding here as you see that room continues to fill up. The post position draw just moments away. We're going to send it back to Ed DeRosa for his thoughts on what to expect with this post position draw, what you're looking at, and from a handicapping perspective, just how important is it after looking at these horses on paper and now trying to visualize the race?
Well, for me, Joe, 14 horses in the main gate. I don't think it's as important as the events that'll transpire tomorrow with the Kentucky Derby draw with 20 in the auxiliary gate. A lot of talk of the rail in the Derby. I don't think those issues as present in the Oaks. This is a good enough group where I think the best horse will probably be able to win from anywhere, which isn't to say there won't be trouble and issues once the race unfolds. But for me, I'm not looking at this draw as something that's going to really move up a horse or down a horse on my ladder. I will weigh in on the wagering, though. I actually think Midnight Bizou will be the favorite. I think with this type of race, the top two are so close. I think money will go to Money Mike Smith, a name a lot of people know, a lot of people in the crowd will know and probably bet. It's casual money, but to me, I think that'll make the difference in the wagering. So if anyone's looking for action, I'll say Midnight Bizou the favorite, but it's going to be close between those top two.
Yeah, it makes a good point there. I
Yeah.
mean, people do bet trainers. People do bet jockeys. Obviously, Mike Smith, synonymous with riding a lot of big races.
I mean, it's not a coincidence he wins them either. I mean, he does not panic, and he's had a lot of experience in him. I mean, to continue on with what Ed was saying, the Baffert factor might make Rhea the third choice just because it's Baffert also. I mean, on this kind of day, some of the handicappers might not be the most sophisticated. They see Mike Smith, they bet Mike Smith. They see Bob Baffert, they bet Bob Baffert. And Rhea, who is a complete wild card in this race, could be the third choice, but she'll still be a good price with the other two fillies being such dominant favorites.
And you also see Mendelssohn in the company lines, and that's going to probably help her take a little bit of extra money as well. We're going to go back to Ed.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, waiting the draw here. Very curious to see where these fillies land. Not necessarily for wagering purposes, but certainly the trainers are going to make some adjustments with their instructions to jockeys. Dale Romans just filed in. You mentioned earlier he's one of 5 trainers with a chance at the double. And Mike Smith, aboard Midnight Bizou, one of the few jockeys available for the double. And, of course, he has the likely favorite in the Kentucky Derby presented by Woodford Reserve and Justify. So Money Mike Smith, a big chance to live up to his name. And I agree with Gary on Rhea. Bob Baffert, one of the trainers, to have a chance at the double. I think his name and really the mystique of the UAE Derby will lead her to being the third choice, but way back from the top two. She'll be clear of those as third choice. Should be an interesting betting race. Looking forward to getting to it.
Last jockey to win the Oaks and Derby, Calvin Burrell, Rachel Alexandra, and of course Mind That Bird. Up to John Asher for the draw.
Thank you, Steve. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Buttleman, our bugler here at Churchill Downs, who has a very busy week lying ahead. Good morning and welcome to the post draw for the $1 million Longines Kentucky Oaks, the 144th running of America's top race for 3-year-old fillies, 1 mile and 1/8 for 3-year-old fillies on these grounds at Churchill Downs on Friday, May 4th. We have a full gate. We have a field of 14 3-year-old fillies have been entered for this year's Run for the Lilies, and we will be drawing the post here. And let me introduce you first to some officials as who will be presiding over these proceedings. First of all, the folks that will be actively participating in the post draw themselves are Racing Secretary Ben Huffman. Ben Huffman here again for the Kentucky Oaks, and next to him, the Assistant Racing Secretary Dan Bork. So Dan Bork will actually be shaking the pill bottle and pulling out the pill numbers as Ben looks at the entries and calls out each horse by name. He'll be shuffling those, and then we'll go to the post draw. Officiating over the proceedings are officials to the back of these gentlemen, and one is the Chief Steward for the state of Kentucky, Barbara Borden. She's just behind Dan Bork there, and Kevin Flannery, the president of Churchill Downs Racetrack, standing by in case, he used to be an attorney, in case legal decision should be needed. We'll jump to him very quickly. But now we prepare to move forward with the post draw. These 14 fillies for the 144th running of the Longines Kentucky Oaks. Actually, in Oaks history, well, this year with the Kentucky Derby, we'll be looking for our 144th winner of the Kentucky Derby. We have already had 144 winners of the Kentucky Oaks. We had 1 year in which we had the Oaks was split in 2 divisions, and we had 2 winners of the Oaks that year. But this year, looking for the winner of the official winner of the 144th running of the Longines Kentucky Oaks. Again, 14 3-year-old fillies running 1 mile and 1/8 on Friday here at Churchill Downs. Ben Huffman, you want to get started?
Here we go.
Number 2.
Number 2 is Coach Rocks, Dale Romans, Luis Saez.
Post number 2 to Coach Rocks.
Number 13.
13 is Eskimo Kisses, Ken McPeak, Corey Lannery.
Eskimo Kisses coming off a good run in the Ashland to Keeneland last time out.
Number 3.
3 is Classy Act, Brett Calhoun, Brian Hernandez Jr.
Classy Act for Brett Calhoun, one of 2 Calhoun trainees in this Kentucky Oaks.
Number 12.
12, Patrona Margarita, Brett Calhoun, Ricardo Santana.
Calhoun again with Patrona Margarita, the winner of the Debutante Stakes here last year as a 2-year-old at Churchill Downs.
Number 7.
7 is Rhea, Bob Baffert, Drayden Van Dyke.
Rhea preparing to make her first start in the United States. She was second against the boys in the UAE Derby last time out behind Mendelssohn, now trained for the first time by Bob Baffert.
Number 6.
6, Kelly's Humor, Brad Cox, Irad Ortiz.
Kelly Schumer for Louisville-born Brad Cox, who will have a busy day on Kentucky Oaks Day. We'll hear more from him later in this draw.
Number 4.
4 is Chocolate Martini, Tom Amos, Javier Castellano.
Chocolate Martini, winner of the Fairgrounds Oaks last time out for Tom Amos. And that's half the field. That's the first 7 in this year's draw for the 144th Kentucky Oaks. We'll take a short break and come back with the remaining 7. Half the field set now for this week's $1 million Kentucky Oaks.
Thanks, John, Ben, and Dan. 7 down, 7 to go. I think the most interesting post we've seen so far is Classy Act drawing post position number 3. Unless Monomoy Girl draws the rail, she's going to be outside of Classy Act, which I know Brad Cox is probably happy with.
That has to be what Mr. Cox was looking for. I mean, it is very interesting that the 2 favorites haven't come out of the box, and the 1 in the 14 hole is still open. So. You never know.
Eskimo Kisses 13. That doesn't bother Kenny McPeak at all, I wouldn't think. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but she's a deep closer, and she's going to break, and she's going to try to save ground at some point in the race. But you would think 13 would bother some. Probably not this horse.
No, she's just going to drop over, try to get over, and she's a deep closer. She's going to get outrun by a lot of horses, so that's not going to bother her.
And Rhea post position number 7, Drayden Van Dyke. I think that's a perfect position for her.
She's fine there. I mean, she looked like in the videos of her works at Santa Anita, she breaks the gate good, so it's pretty good.
Okay. Let's get a quick thought from Ed. Ed?
I think you guys said it. Monomoy Girl, 6-1 chance. She's outside Coach Rocks. Pretty good odds for the group. I have to think that's what they want. So we'll see. John Asher up next with the last 7. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so we've got 7 down, 7 to go. Monomoy Girl still yet to be drawn. Midnight Bisou still yet to be drawn. You're looking at those post positions there. If I'm Monomoy Girl, I'd basically take any of those posts, but if you were Brad Cox, which one would you want, Garrett?
5.
5?
5, yeah, 5 or 8. You know, I mean, probably wouldn't want the 14 hole, wouldn't want the 1 hole, but any of the other 5 would be fine with Brad, I'm sure.
All right, and Midnight Bisou still remains in the box as well. We'll have her post position draw, and the rest of the 6, 7 more to draw, and the man to conduct that, we're going to go back to him right now, Vice President of Racing Communications here at Churchill, John Asher. John?
Thank you, gentlemen. We now have half the field for the Kentucky Oaks set, and still waiting to hear which posts will be the starting points for the 2 favorites for this race, Monomoy Girl and Midnight Bisou. They'll be among the final 7 draws. Back to Ben Huffman for the post draw along with Dan Bork.
Number 11.
11, My Miss Lily, Mark Hennig, Joe Bravo.
Number 10.
10, Midnight Basoo, Bill Spar, Mike Smith.
Winner of the Santa Anita Oaks Midnight Bazoo draws number 10.
Number 14.
14, Monomoy Girl, Brad Cox, Florent Giroux.
Monomoy Girl won all but one career start. Brad Cox, who grew up 2 blocks from Churchill Downs, draws post number 14.
Number 5.
5, Wonder Godot, Mark Cassie, John Velasquez.
Wonder Godot for trainer Mark Cassie, an Ontario bred in this year's Kentucky Oaks.
Number 1.
1, Sassy Sienna, Brad Cox, Gary Stevens.
Sassy Sienna, winner of the Fantasy last time out at Oaklawn Park, draws the rail post 1.
Number 8.
8, Heaven Has Mine Nikki, Anthony Quaterolo, Calvin Burrell.
Calvin Burrell, who won this race aboard Rachel Alexandra aboard Heaven Has Mine Nikki.
Number 9.
9 is Take Charge Paula, Kieran McLaughlin, Jose Ortiz.
Take Charge Paula, second in the Gulfstream Park Oaks behind Coach Rock's last time out, completes the field. Field of 14, post number 9 for Take Charge Paula. In alphabetical order from the top, Chocolate Martini draws number 4, Classy Act number 3, Coach Rocks number 2, Eskimo Kisses number 13, Heaven Has My Nikki number 8, Kelly Schumer number 6, Midnight Bazoo is number 10, Monomoy Girl breaks from the outside post number 14, My Miss Lily is in post number 11, Patrona Margarita in post 12, Rhea back against the Phillies in the Oaks from post 7. Sassy Sienna draws the rail post number 1. Take Charge Paula, number 9. And Wonder Godot is post position number 5. Those are your posts for the Kentucky Oaks, the 144th running of the Kentucky Oaks. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with Mike Battaglia's Morning Line, the Morning Line odds for Kentucky Oaks 144. Coming up next, right after this from Churchill Downs, and the post draw for the Longines Kentucky Oaks.
Math isn't one of my strong suits, but the odds of Brad Cox drawing the 1 and the 14 with his 2 fillies, Sassy Sienna and Monomoy Girl, have to be somewhat extraordinary. Monomoy Girl in the 14. There's not a lot of speed in this Kentucky Oak. She's on the outside. A lot of times, though, Gary, horses seem to break out coming out of the starting gate in the extreme outside post. And based on what she did in New Orleans earlier this year, that has to be a marginal concern.
She did do that. There was nothing outside of her in the fairgrounds race, and she broke a step slow and she took a step to the right. I'm sure he wouldn't have had his druthers. He wouldn't have liked that post, but you know, she's got more experience now, and you know, she probably might be able to handle that. Both the older horses, both the favorites drew slightly outside, but if they're as good as they're anticipated, they should be able to overcome it.
Well, Ed, you've had a little bit of time to digest the 14 post positions for the Longines Kentucky Oaks. How do you kind of see the pace scenario potentially unfolding?
Yeah, a little bit of time, and I did some math, Joe. It's 90-1 that Brad Cox would have had the rail and the far outside post. So not ideal, but he'll be 5-2 around there with Monomoy Girl. They'll have to get a good position, as they would from anywhere. They have a great jockey to do it. Not where he would have chosen, as Gary likely surmised, but I think they have the right horse to get it done. Makes the race even more interesting. Kind of wish I would have taken a bet that Midnight Bazoo would be the favorite. I think with these posts, that's probably where the bettors will go.
Well, the man that makes the morning line here is Mike Battaglia. He's going to determine who at least is going to be the favorite in the program. Let's send it to John and Mike.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here are the morning line odds for Kentucky Oaks 144. I'm going to read them in alphabetical order, but we'll give you the morning line favorites, the top 2 choices off the top. Number 14, Monomoy Girl, is the 2-1 favorite for the Kentucky Oaks for trainer Brad Cox, the winner of the Ashland Stakes at Keeneland, and the Santa Anita Oaks winner Midnight Bazoo with Mike Smith up for trainer Cliff Spar at 5-2 in the morning line. So 2-1 on Monomoy Girl, Midnight Bizou at 5-2. We'll take them in alphabetical order after this. Number 4, Chocolate Martini, is 12-1 in the morning line. Number 3, Classy Act under Brian Hernandez, 15-1. Number 2, Coach Rocks with Luis Saez at 12-1. Coach Rocks number 2 at 12-1. Number 13 at Eskimo Kisses with Corey Lannery in the saddle at 15-1. Number 8, Heaven Has My Nikki with Calvin Burrell up at 30-1. 30-1 for Heaven Has My Nikki. Number 6, Kelly's Humor, also 30-1. 30-1 for Kelly's Humor, breaking out of number 6. Again, number 10, Midnight Bizou, is at 5-2. Number 14, Monomoy Girl, the morning line favorite in Mike Battaglia's morning line, is at 2-1. My Miss Lily, winner of the Gazelle under Joe Bravo, at 10-1 for the Mark Hennig trained My Miss Lily. Number 12, Patrona Margarita, Ricardo Santana Jr. up at 30-1. 30-1 on the 12, Patrona Margarita. Number 7, Rhea with Drayden Van Dyke up for trainer Bob Baffert, going for 2 Kentucky Oaks wins in a row. Rhea at 15-1. 15-1 on number 7, Rhea. Number 1, Sassy Sienna. Gary Stevens, who rode Silver Bullet Day to victory in the Kentucky Oaks back in 1999. Sassy Sienna at 15-1. Number 9, Take Charge Paula. Jose Ortiz up at 15-1. And number 5, Wonder Gadot, Johnny Velasquez up. And Wonder Gadot at 20-1 odds. 20-1 on Wonder Gadot. Here's your field of 14, a full gate 14 fillies for the Kentucky Oaks. The race will be run Friday here at Churchill Downs. Thanks for being here with us today. We will see you tomorrow for the draw for the 144th Kentucky Oaks presented by Woodford Reserve. Thank you for being here and have a great Kentucky Oaks.
All right, thanks, John. Thanks, Mike Battaglia, for those morning line odds. And no surprises, really. I mean, it's going to be Monomoy Girl. It could be Midnight Bizou. Mike Battaglia might have just flipped the coin and landed on heads for Monomoy Girl. It could have been either way.
Could have been either way. You're going to get paid if you beat him, but if you don't, there's a very good chance that it's going to be, Chalk City. So we'll see.
Post position number 2 goes to Coach Rocks, 12-1 in the morning line with Luis Saez aboard. Standing by with trainer Dale Romans is Ed DeRosa. Ed?
Dale, the 2-hole, what do you think?
That's a good spot for us. When we come out of there, we'll be forwardly placed. I don't think we'll be on the lead. We'll run more like we did in Oaks in Florida.
Obviously, you can't train or ride other horses, but you do have speed right to your outside in Coach Rocks and one of the favorites in the 14-hole. What do you think that does for the complexion of the race and your strategy with Coach Rocks?
Well, we're in good shape. They're the ones that have to make all the decisions. We're just going to break, come out of there running, and then see where they place themselves around us.
All right, you have a chance at that Oaks Derby double, and in the Derby, Promises Fulfilled and Free Drop Billy. 2 different looks on the pace scenario. What are you thinking of your Oaks Derby double chances?
Well, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? I might retire after that. That'd be on top of the world.
It'd be amazing. Dale, best of luck to you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Joe?
Yeah, curious with an Oaks Derby double of Coach Rocks and Promises Fulfilled or Free Drop Billy would pay. It would be extraordinary. Coach Rocks 12-1 in the morning line. Dale says forwardly placed. He's got the speed of Classy Act. Probably crosses over, makes the lead. Monomoy Girl at some point gets in perfect position just outside of her, you would think. And Coach Rocks could sit that cozy catbird seat trip. And at 12-1, I would give her a second thought in the win pool.
I agree. If you look at her race in Florida, she overcame getting tapping on the brakes a couple of times, and post is good, and she could get a good trip. Absolutely.
Yeah, and another thing that stands out a little bit to me here is Rhea 15-1. We talked about connections, and we talked about company lines. Bob Baffert, Mendelssohn, trainer, horse she ran second to last time. Both big names going into this year's Kentucky Derby. If Ray is 15-1, I would jump all over that as well.
And you got to work out with last year's Kentucky Oaks winner, Abel Tasman, that she worked even with her. Baffert definitely knows his way down to the winner's circle in these kind of races, and Drayden Van Dyke is a rising star in this game. I think he's got a lot of big national races in his future that he will win. He's a very good rider.
Now, based on what you've seen so far, we've seen all the preps. You've gotten a chance to see the workouts. Obviously, the California horses arriving today, including Midnight Bisou. We get to see her train the next couple of days. But at this moment in time, you saw those morning line odds. You got an idea what the prices are going to be. What are you thinking? I mean, how are you approaching this race from a wagering perspective?
Well, I always look to try to beat the favorite. That's what I've done for my whole life. I like betting against weak favorites. I don't think we have weak favorites in this race. But based on the morning line that Mike put up, if I'm trying to beat the favorites, I'm looking at Raya and I'm looking at Coach Rocks. I am.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Coach Rocks or Raya for me at a price, but I agree with you. The two favorites, I wouldn't be surprised to see them run 1-2. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. One man that should have something to say about the result is trainer Tom Amos. He too is one of the trainers with a horse in the Derby in the Oaks, Lone Sailor, and in the Oaks Chocolate Martini. And Ed standing by with Tom. Ed?
Thanks, Tom. 4-1, third choice. A lot of confidence on the morning line. Does the draw help your confidence?
Yeah, we would love to be inside. We're a confirmed closer. If there's speed inside of us, which there is, it should allow us to get to the rail and weave our way through and hopefully have a good trip.
Yeah, speed inside, outside. I know trainers don't like to ride other trainers' horses, but with Coach Rocks and now Monomoy Girl on the far outside, I'm sure you're thinking about how that affects the complexion of the race and the trip your horse might get.
I'm sure everybody's going to talk about that. Monomoy Girl getting the 14 hole is not ideal, but look, Florent Giroux is a great rider. I mean, he's going to be fine. I wouldn't worry about that.
You mentioned confirmed closer, Chocolate Martini. You have another one the next day in Lone Sailor. Are you going to be looking at how the Oaks plays out in terms of how, assuming the weather's the same, what kind of trip you might like in the Derby as well?
Well, as you know, the Oaks is an eighth of a mile less than the Kentucky Derby, and you're breaking from the chute, basically. In the Derby, you're not doing that here. You're breaking against the rail. It's all going to be about maneuvering your way through traffic for both of my horses if they run their race, and they're sure trained like they're going to. So I really think the outcome of this race is a lot dependent upon pace. The way the Oaks sets up, since we're talking about the Oaks, is for what I think is a very good pace and some horses that are going to have to use some of their energy early to get over from those extreme outside posts.
All right, thanks, Tom. Best of luck in the Oaks and the Derby this weekend.
At Fairgrounds this past winter, Tom Amos had Lone Sailor and he had Chocolate Martini. Chocolate Martini, a horse that he claimed, as I mentioned, for $25,000. Lone Sailor needed points in the Louisiana Derby, and Chocolate Martini did too in the Fairgrounds Oaks. And it was a great stretch for Tom because he got Lone Sailor into the Derby by running second. He got Chocolate Martini into the Oaks by her winning that race. To have a horse in the Oaks and or the Derby is a big accomplishment, but to have a horse in both, Tom's sitting on cloud nine. Regardless of the result, he's happy that he's here with both of these. Of course, he wants a good finish for each of these horses, but what an accomplishment for him.
Oh, there's 34 horses at most can run in these two races, and for a trainer to have two in each race, I mean, to have one in each race and two total is just a huge rush for the barn and all of his employees and everything, and it's a hell of an accomplishment. It really is. He's a big-time trainer. He doesn't have quite the number of horses as some other trainers, so for him to have a starter in each race and to be a year-round Kentucky participant, it's got to be as good as it gets. Got to be.
All right, so we've got another guest with Ed DeRosa. Not a trainer this time. We've got an owner, Jeff Bloom, Midnight Bisou, and he's got to be sitting on cloud nine as well with one of the favorites for the Oaks. Ed?
Yeah, I'd say so, Joe. And really a Renaissance man. He's ridden, he's trained, he buys horses, he does it all, and he does have Midnight Bisou in the Kentucky Oaks, who I think actually will be the favorite, especially after that draw. Jeff, probably like your spot.
Yeah, we're thrilled. We weren't too concerned about the post position draw for our filly, but at the same time, preferred not to have like the 1 or 2 hole, not to have the extreme outside. So the 10 post is perfect. She doesn't have to stand in the gate all that long, and it allows Mike to get comfortable when they break out of there and see how things are playing out.
Now, your filly has run in a few different styles, as Gary mentioned, of course, in the Santa Anita Oaks, that eye-popping move, but doesn't necessarily have to be that far back. Based on what you saw with the draw with Coach Rocks and how Monomoy Girl on the outside, any thoughts of where you actually will be when you hit that far turn?
Well, the good news is I get to leave that all up to Mike Smith and not have to worry about it, and especially after the Santa Anita Oaks. I mean, into those fractions as far back as we were on a track that was playing very challenging for horses closing, makes us feel pretty comfortable coming into this race in terms of versatility, and certainly Mike knows her really well. I think probably she'll be a little bit closer than she was in her last start, just because she does have enough tactical speed to allow her, to get into good position. But like I said before, I mean, Mike, he rides these horses with such confidence, and he knows what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you will also have Sky Diamonds running this weekend, so very busy for you. I'm sure you're very excited.
Yeah, we're extremely excited. Can't wait to get it started.
Us neither. Thanks so much. Joe?
Good stuff with Jeff there, Ed. And we talk about the trainers and the jockeys a lot. We don't talk about the owners a lot and how exciting it is to get a horse here. These are two of the biggest races, obviously, that you could ever want to run in. Just getting here is an accomplishment, but having a horse like Midnight Bisou, who is one of the favorites, how are you feeling about right now if you're an owner with the race looming on Friday, Gary?
You kind of, with each passing
Been
minute,
in this spot.
Yeah, I've been in this spot. You kind of want to get the race over with. Your stomach starts grinding a little bit, and you're enjoying every minute, but at the same time, the anticipation is driving you crazy, And by the time they get in the gates, if you own them or have a connection with these horses, the grooms, whatever, the exercise riders, your guts are going a mile a minute, and you're proud of your horses, and you just want them to do good when the lights are shining brightest. You do.
Gary and I have talked about who we thought might be the third choice. Mike Battaglia thinks it's going to be Chocolate Martini at 4-1. I don't personally agree with that. I'm thinking maybe Coach Rocks. I'm thinking it's probably going to be Rhea, maybe my Miss Lily as well. Ed, your thoughts on who the third choice might be? And I asked Gary this earlier, and I know you're inclined to try to be the favorite as well. What are you thinking from a wagering standpoint in the Kentucky Oaks and how you're going to approach it?
Yeah, I mean, at 15-1, if Ray is 15-1, she won't be 15-1 because I don't care Oaks Pool or not. I don't see how she can go off at that price. So I agree with you, Joe. I think she'll be much lighter. Certainly at that price, she would be my play. But I think there's a couple looks in here. Interesting that the Ashland Exacta is drawn on the outside, 14 and 13 holes. Our colleague James Scully really likes Eskimo Kisses. She certainly fits to me at a decent price, 15-1. This field's deep enough that even if you do like one of the favorites, same goes for the Derby, you can hook them up with Eskimo Kisses at 15-1 or Coach Rocks at 12-1 or My Miss Lily and still do really well. So those are the combinations I'm going to look to hit. Definitely have no interest in the Chalk Exacta, though, I'll tell you that.
All right, Ed, and it's interesting, Gary. Ed did a great job with all those interviews, but when I start talking about betting, his energy level went way up.
Oh, he is a true gambler. You gotta love him. You gotta love him. I mean, his eyes opened up like a kid on Christmas morning when we started talking about who you want to gamble.
Exactly. We're going to be able to dig into the Kentucky Oaks PPs and all the PPs for what's going to be an amazing program on Friday. We had the Oaks draw today. Kentucky Derby draw is tomorrow. The Kentucky Derby presented by Woodford Reserve, 10:45 in the morning. We're going to do all this all over again, this time with 20 horses. This time there'll be males. On behalf of Ed DeRose and Gary Young, I'm Joe Christofek. Enjoy the rest of your day. Dig into those Kentucky Oaks PPs Derby draw tomorrow. Thanks, everybody.